maybe I can do without streaming. And then I can just post it.
I'll be right back. I got like a jaw pain. I'm gonna take some beer or something. I'll be right back.
We'll be getting started in just another moment, everybody. We are waiting for one of our guests to get back after getting some aspirin. We'll be right with you.
Oh, I thought you were going to introduce everyone. Yeah, I'm North Countryman, and I haven't been here before, clearly. Yep.
Yeah, you muted me. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I had to end my stream because it was clashing with my internet. I don't know what was happening. I mean, I know my Streamlabs always freaks out when I use Snapcam to do any other streaming. But I think it's North's fault because I've never had that problem before.
Yeah.
And he's like well known for having all the tech issues
Every single time I stream. So.
every single time.
Yep. Oh yeah, I am.
I'll be in there for a while. At least I made it back this time, huh? Hi, I'm Universal Discourse, indigenous researcher, musician, Twitch streamer, author. I have a sword jaw. I'm gonna be here for a while. I come on regularly to support the News Roundup and the Cipher State new show that's coming on. Thank you.
I am North Countryman. My username refers to upstate New York, which is where I'm born and raised and love. I spent about like 7 years studying political science in various forms and taught it for 3 as an adjunct, basically grade 13. And I taught political science, and I'm very happy to be here to really just kind of break down the news into a digestible format for people, because that's what I like doing. Yep.
Hi, I'm Fresh Faces New Ideas. I'm a Twitch streamer. You can find me at twitch.tv/Fresh Faces New Ideas, or you can find me on Twitter at Faces Ideas. I generally cover the news every day during the week, usually at 1 p.m. or 5 p.m. if it's on a Thursday. Usually I start at 5. Although that's subject to change over the next couple of weeks, so hop onto my Twitch and my Twitter and all my stuff so you can keep track of when I stream. I talk to pretty much anybody about politics. Yeah, I like to talk to people.
All right. And Fresh Faces, New Ideas, we are glad to have you. Alex B from YouTube said, hey, I think you're muted. Yes, I was. I forgot to unmute myself when I unmuted everybody else. So again, this is the Crowdsource Politics News Roundup. If you didn't, since nobody heard me before, you're going to hear it again. We do this every Thursday from 8 p.m. Eastern to about 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, covering the news that was of the last week and the kind of analysis only the crowd can provide. So let's go ahead and get into the show. And there's going to be a slight break here while I play a video. So let's do that. All right, welcome back, everybody. So we are going to go ahead and get started with the news. We have a ton to cover today. There is so much that happened in the last week or so. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we get into the news, we are going to be doing Cipher State here this Sunday on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube, streaming to you live, covering a variety. Cipher State is a foreign affairs, foreign policy focused podcast that covers a variety of topics in that realm, trying to figure out what is going on in the world and what it means for the geopolitical sphere. This Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be covering the recent German elections, what that means for the EU and the global stage on a whole. So let's go ahead and get into national politics. With news bounced around this past week, and the roundup is bouncing with it tonight. First up with the debt limit, starting with a brief update on the debt limit today. Sorry, I need to do this. Starting with a brief update today. You remember last week that we covered the Senate actually passing the debt ceiling, bipartisan deal to raise the debt ceiling until December 3rd, when this will begin again. Raising the debt ceiling, raising the debt ceiling for the federal budget shortfall caused by the tax reduction passed by Republicans in 2017, as well as other previous debt. There is no new spending in the raising of the debt limit, which Republicans well know, though they're trying their damnedest to convince their base otherwise. Yesterday, the House passed their measure and the bill was sent to President Biden for signatures. But as has become the norm, the politics were bumpy. All 209 Republicans in House voted no, and the Senate barely avoided a filibuster with 11 Republican votes. Senator Minority Leader Mitch McConnell conference rebelled against him, something McConnell has not often faced in a long political career. Republicans have raked him over the proverbial coals this past week, with many saying that he blinked in the face of Democratic threat to carve out an exception to the filibuster. So we are going to be talking about this probably ad nauseum for the next few months, simply because we are dealing with the kind of thing of the debt ceiling not being suspended completely. But I want to get your thoughts. We'll start with North Countryman. I want to get your thoughts in here, since this is your first time on the news program. Yep. And you are, unlike the rest of us, you're kind of conservative. So let's go ahead and get your thoughts.
Yep, kind of conservative. Yeah, so if I can start, I just wanted to kind of explain, if you didn't, because I couldn't quite hear you, the difference between the debt and the deficit. The deficit is just the difference between how much we spend and versus how much we pull in from taxes. And typically, the U.S. runs a deficit. We don't have as much revenue to pay for our spending. So now for an ordinary household, that's a bad thing. But for a government, the way the U.S. does this is they issue things like treasury bonds. And the ability for the Treasury to do that, that's what the debt ceiling is. By raising that says, okay, Treasury, you can go ahead and issue that debt, pay for what you need to pay for. If the debt ceiling is not raised, then the Treasury can't do that. And not only does it look extremely bad for the United States, they can't pay their debts, there is also the risk that things that the U.S. government has to pay for by law, things like Social Security payments, those are at risk because the U.S. doesn't have enough money to pay for it. So that in part is why the debt ceiling, is such a hugely important thing, and why playing politics with it, even discussing it, is damaging to the U.S. fiscally.
No, that's a great point, North Countryman, that this is going to have global impacts, not just for the United States, but also for the world as a whole. Universal discourse. We've talked about this, you and I, extensively on this program as well as other places. I'm sure that you're glad that this was passed, but what are your thoughts about how McConnell has experienced kind of some finger wagging, to say the least, from his Republican colleagues? We can't hear you. I think you're muted on your end.
muted myself. We're just like compulsively muting ourselves. That's so weird. I'm always in here with the kind of the cloak and dagger thing going. I suspect a strangle somewhere. Trump is the de facto leader of the party. I mean, okay, so there he is with his puppet strings being pulled. So, I mean, I don't actually think that man acts of his own volition at all on anything. It's like push a button, watch him go. But he gets a finger wagging. If that's the case, it's possibly all for show. That's so atypical. You know. So does that mean infighting with that party now? I don't know. I'm still waiting to find out where this ball's gonna land. It's like playing roulette. You know, I just don't I just don't believe a word he says, that anything he does is of his own volition necessarily, that he's always strategically or tactically, playing some sort of game all the time.
McConnell does tend to be very politically aware, if not entirely politically savvy. And so we actually had a comment from one of our listeners, Independent Thought, joining us over from YouTube, saying, I'm sure all those CEOs reaching out had something to do with McConnell changing his stance.
Sure.
Yeah. Does everyone here agree with Independent Thought's comment about that? Would like to expound upon?
I can, unless someone else wants to go first who hasn't already.
I can let me just do.
All right, so let's go North Countryman and then Fresh Faces.
Yeah, this does kind of reinforce the idea that by raising the debt ceiling, this is considered a routine thing that is just a natural part of governing. You don't play politics with it, and businesses as a rule do not like instability. They like knowing what's coming down the pike. So my line of work, I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but it involves cross-border trade. So when President Trump renegotiated NAFTA for USMCA, a lot of businesses were like, okay, what's going to happen? They're kind of on edge. Something like playing politics with the debt ceiling, it again puts businesses on edge, and they don't like being on edge. They're like, knowing things are going to be okay.
No, I agree with that. Fresh Faces, what's your take, man?
Look, even if they start they get closer to the default time with this little extension, the businesses are going to start pushing them as they get closer. So there's like three ways to do this. One, and this is still my favorite way, and I think it's the easiest way to do this to just blow up a whole bunch of talk points, is attach it to the $1 billion of funding for Israel. The last I checked, when we talked about this last week, it was still being held up by Rand Paul. I've not looked at it since. I don't think it has passed. Attach it to the $1 billion in funding in Israel, and if they block it, they're anti-Semitic because we're not allowed to have conversations about Israel in nuance. Two, they can carve it out in the filibuster, and then they can just pass it with 50 votes, and then you don't have to worry about the Republicans' obstructionists. Three, they have to start writing it as a separate standalone reconciliation bill, because the last I looked into this, the parliamentarian said that they can do a separate one for this, and it doesn't count as one of their three. And then, or they put it in as part of the Build Back Better bill, and that makes it harder for people like Manchin and Sinema to, or at least people like Manchin to do it. I have no faith in Sinema voting for anything correctly. She's off in fucking Europe right now.
Like, do you when you say she's off in Europe right now, do you mean she's literally in Europe, or it's just like
she's literally in Europe? Yeah.
What the fuck?
She's doing some type of fundraising for the possibly for the DNC. It's not clear what exactly she's doing there.
Jesus Christ.
But I mean, it's kind of like that headline is also buoyed by the fact that they're just not there anyway. Like, the Senate is out of session because they work for 3 days in a month. So Cinemas in Europe is less of a headline if everyone else was in Washington. But no, look, this is going to pass. The problem is, at some point, you're going to run up against a group that's a little nuttier and a little more willing to blow things up. And you need to have some type of contingency plan for the crazies.
For the crazies?
Well, yeah, because Mitch McConnell, unfortunately, is not going to live forever. I know he'll
Did you just
probably
say fortunately?
yeah, yes, because he's
Jesus,
one of
dude.
the most effective politicians, but he for problems. I understand he's a turtle, so he's got another 100 years. He's gonna live for another like what is he 80s? He's gonna live till he's 150.
Okay, wait.
I remember you also
Cypher,
said Rand Paul
finally,
should be
I'm not the
punished or
only
something like
one
that.
that
Don't go to
says
Kentucky,
stuff
Fresh.
like that.
Don't go to Kentucky.
Hold up.
I'm not going to Kentucky.
North Country, can you repeat your point, and then
Yeah.
Universal Discourse can repeat hers.
Sorry.
I remember Fresh said that when Rand Paul was attacked by his neighbor, is like, oh, good, he's a POS. I'm like, yeah, Fresh, don't go, Fresh. I think you might want to stay away from Kentucky. You know.
Well, I'm just gonna wait till Charles Booker wins, and that'll be accepted. Anyway,
Keep waiting, buddy. Keep waiting.
look, McConnell is at least like he's a very effective in his job, but if we ended up with like a potentially weaker leader in the Senate, somebody like more akin to McCarthy, who doesn't totally have control over the wackier elements of his party, and we're in a similar situation like this in the Senate, it's harder for them to marshal their resources. So they have to have some type of contingency plan in the future for something like that, because they're just getting wackier. There's no, like, I don't entirely believe that McCarthy would be the next speaker if they won. And if they did, he certainly wouldn't be the one after.
Oh, that's interesting. You wouldn't think that McCarthy would get the speakership? Why do you think that?
I think, well, one, I think there's an absolute contingency that would try to put Trump in because they think that they can then impeach Biden and impeach Kamala Harris and then Trump would be president. But I also think that there's a chance that, like, you know, the populism is not with McCarthy. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene is the number one fundraiser in the Republican Party. If they had a smarter, you know, version of her who was like a Madison Cawthorn who was, you know, not as crazy, that could be problematic for McCarthy, because McCarthy isn't really good at his job. He's not really charismatic. If they had a crazier version, it's very conceivable that they would be in charge.
Interesting. North Country, University Discord, do you want to jump in on this? No.
Yeah. First of all, I was saying after FFNI, it's funny. See, now I'm not the only one that says shit like that. Good. I feel much better. I was flapping in the breeze there for many months. Now I'm like, ha, your turn. You do it. Okay. No. So okay. Every year or every time the budget comes up, here we go through it. It's clearly, like I said, bad football. That Trump still has any influence, it just, to me, you know, is like, well, I mean, there's the man behind the curtain now. So there's almost no point in asking anything else around it. Where are they going? The way he's telling them to. That's unbelievable. Like, you try to impeach a person twice and they're like, him, I want to salute him. Sure. So if these were all money, corporate power driven, as he says, crazies, but definitely racist, bigoted, fundamentalist, that's going to be America for the next 8 years. Because even if he's not in office, another one like him will be. When they have the battle round over the budget is like, you know, the show The Voice, when you have the battle round?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I just know the start.
So they pick teams, the judges do, and then they take two and they pair them up and they have a battle round to see who goes on to the finale. So the budget fight is always the battle round. All of the crap is on display if you watch it carefully in terms of the dynamics, right? It's exposing all of it. Which is, real drama, very fascinating, but the real damage that is done to people. Again, it's like we're the collateral damage all the time for this. So with McConnell going gub with his big turtleneck, you know, and his little strings being pulled, I'm still insisting that he be totally strawmanned out of the way and find out who's behind there who's behind the curtain, pushing and pulling his little levers. And if you say crazies, how crazy? Because there's a point where crazy becomes deadly serious. right now that whole party is kind of like Keystone Cops. They're all falling all over them, so they appear to lack any clear direction. They sort of just they keep throwing Hail Marys out there, just pulling it out of their butt and going. Generally, that would mean that something much worse is in store. Now, see, it just, is this how America is going to be for the next 8 years? Is this it? That's it? Because they've moved in like this is the way it's always been. What's?
Well, I think to be fair, there is typically two wings within the Republican Party. If we can be as trite as we can be, there's the more conservative cultural element that's within the Conservative Party, and then there's more conservative, somewhat Burkean but very economically conservative wing of the Republican Party. And there's still, at least in my mind, or at least how I see it, they're still kind of vying for control, and they have been since the Tea Party. A lot of the Tea Party stuff was co-opted by the corporate wing, but it seems like they've lost some control over it. But I am an outsider. I'm not a Republican. I am not a conservative. So this is me looking on the outside. I don't go to meetings or anything like that. Despite being in Texas, I don't go to Republican meetings. Some of these things would not go well for me. But I would like to know North Countryman's thoughts about that as well.
Yeah, meanwhile, I am a literal town party chairman and had a meeting just last week.
See, there you go. So I'm like, hey, we finally got an insider, everybody. Let's. What are your thoughts about this, though?
It's just a town chairmanship. It's like the most minimum amount of power I can possibly have. It's like, one thing I do want to go a little bit towards what Universal said and a little bit what Fresh said, sure, is the idea of like who's behind this. And yeah, definitely there is Trump, and what he says kind of drives people, but there is one of the major downsides of living in a democracy that I don't know if Fresh pointed out as a negative, but he did point it out as populism. And unfortunately, populism, when it draws in new voters, is a good thing. Populism, when it gets into governing, is usually a bad thing. Raising the debt ceiling is a routine part of governance. It's just something that Congress does every year when they need to, and for the populace to say, "Oh, don't bother doing that. Just play politics with it." That does irreparable harm. Fresh also brought up Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was stripped of her committees, and thing is, though, for a member of Congress, committee work is probably about 70-80% of what you do in terms of legislative activity. So her not being on those committees is actually seriously damaging to her effectiveness as a lawmaker. But in the age of populism, in the age of Twitter, in the age of who can say what fastest and who can get the headlines, that doesn't really matter. And that's a bad thing, I'd say. You need expertise in order to get proper governance. You need technocrats.
We need the deep state. That's what North Countryman is saying here, everybody. He's saying, bring back the deeps. No, I'm just kidding. If that wasn't clear.
Yes.
Well, I mean, no, he's right, though. Like, you do need to have, like, a basic understanding of how government works. Like, there's nothing wrong with having, like, younger people, or, like, they always talk about Lauren Boebert, like, not going to college. There's nothing wrong with having people who didn't go to college in governance. The problem is they have to at least understand or be willing to learn how it works. Like, she has no desire to actually govern or understand the process that she's a part of. It's so, like, you do need people who understand what they're doing. You need the diplomats who have been there for, decades. You need the Nancy Pelosi's understand the in and outs. You need the people who understand how the parliamentarian works and all the ins and outs of the stuff. They're not the most popular people generally, but they're there for a reason. They're good at what they do. Like, it's fine to have people who are bombastic and don't really understand like every little thing, but those can't be the only people there, because then we end up with like North said, Marjorie Taylor Greene has no real power. The only thing she basically does is every time they come up for a vote, she tries to make them all go home. like when asking them to do things, like Madison Cawthorn, while they were out, said that he introduced bills. He was like, yeah, we voted on these bills. I was like, you're not even in session. Like he's like, yeah, I introduced these bills. I was like, you haven't been in the Congress for like 2 months. Like, you do need people who understand how to do it at a very,
Did
very
he
minimum.
say he introduced them or that they voted on them?
Honestly, I don't remember. This was in like April.
Yeah,
Whatever he like made up a bill.
If it was voting on, then that doesn't make sense. But introducing, they just put that in a wooden box at the front of the thing. So
that's true.
I would have
it's a little easier.
to double check. I think it was one of my old YouTube videos. That's how long ago it's been since I've done it. Let me look for it.
Nah, it's all good.
By the way, I wasn't laughing at what you were saying, Fresh. I just saw a funny message someone sent to me.
Oh.
Completely unrelated to this.
Well, speaking of things that are actually related to this, Crowdsource Politics does have podcasts, and some of them are relevant perpetually. And we have an episode called Mitch Master McConnell. We actually dive into Mitch McConnell's history, what kind of drives him, and the like of that. So please check that out if you're interested to learn more about McConnell and his history and the kind of things that drive him. I think we've done this topic fairly well. The only thing that I would like everybody's opinion on here is how much of being friends or cordial with Biden actually led to him being willing to actually try to get the debt ceiling raised. In a message to Biden, McConnell is quoted as saying that, I'm sorry, let me see if I can find it again. Will not be a party to any future effort to resolve the debt ceiling problem, insisting that Democrats use the more circuitous budget process, which Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and numerous other Democrats had ruled out previously. So do you think this has anything to do with the relationship that Biden has built over the decades, or is this kind of a thing where business, or are we sticking to our guns and saying this was mostly businesses pushing him to get this done, and there being time for Democrats to get that into the budget reconciliation process for the quote unquote build back better bill?
I would say it was the businesses with a good motivation, but Biden having that relationship, he knows where he can outstretch his hand. I'm doing this to the camera, not acknowledging the podcast audience. But this to me is Joe Biden's Lyndon Johnson moment. Lyndon Johnson was Senate Majority Leader in his time, and he used those relationships to get civil rights bills passed, the voting rights bills passed. And that was extremely effective. And it's kind of a shame that Biden has to use these relationships on what is a routine governing procedure. But it does show that experience does matter. An age-old thing of hire the person with least government experience. No, hire the person who knows what they're doing.
Facts. Universal discourse.
I don't feel like McConnell really is going to honor any friendship, relationship, but he double speaks. And if anything, he's trying to do both at the same time, which may account for... He typically will go into this weird lingo thing that he does. For a linguist, it's like very obvious that he's doing it. So I think he's probably doing both at the same time, which explains why it's atypical. But I don't think he has any loyalty to anyone but his own ideology.
Fresh faces?
Yeah, I think it helps. Look, I would think that somebody who was in Senate for as long as Joe Biden was, who was in the Obama White House, would have a better handle of how to interact with this current iteration of the Republican Party. I think it would make more sense to put more pressure on people like Joe Manchin than it is to try to truly make conversations with McConnell, because with McConnell, his sole goal is basically to grind everything to a halt as best as he can. I think with the debt ceiling, they're going to do this till the last minute. I think the part of the biggest issue now that they have this breathing room is anybody who's not writing up the little pieces of legislation that they can while they wait for Sinema and Manchin to decide them what big number goes smaller means, should be writing up a reconciliation bill for this so they can start the process. Because part of the problem with what happened before was they're like, we don't have enough time to do this. So now you can start doing the steps, and every step of the way that, you know, Ted Cruz or Josh Hawley or Ron Johnson, whichever one, Marsha Blackburn, pick one out of a hat, decides to block it at the point, you make a big deal out of it. And then you point to McConnell and say, like, look, you said you don't want to help us. Get your caucus in line and tell them to stop obstructing it. We don't care. We'll do it ourselves. Just get them out of the way. And if you don't, either help us or it's going to be on you, because you can't say, I'm not going to let you do this. And then this is the analogy I make. You can't tell somebody you're going to have them open a door and then hold the door closed and say, why aren't you opening it? That's not how this works.
No, I think that's a fair point. I do think that there is something to be said of getting the limit extended to December 3rd. As we know, the Congress goes on recess for roughly 4 weeks, starting around December 12th or so. They basically take the 2 weeks before Christmas and the 2 weeks after Christmas as a recess, and come and reconvene in like mid-January or so.
They work so hard.
And so I think setting it for December 3rd, where a lot of people aren't going to pay attention, and maybe some Republicans would be more willing to vote to extend it further because no one's eyes are on them, might have something to do with it. One other thing, and then we'll move on to the next topic, so people can say their piece if they'd like, is that there was a letter that McConnell sent to Biden on October 8th. And it reads, and this is quote word for word, "Dear President Biden, last night, Republicans filled the leadership vacuum that has troubled the Senate since January. I write to inform you that I will not provide such assistance again if your all-Democratic government drifts into another avoidable crisis." The Senate Democratic leader had 3 months' notice to handle one of his most basic governing duties. Amazingly, even this proved to be asking too much. Senator Schumer spent 11 weeks claiming he lacked the time and the leadership skills to manage a straightforward process that would take less than 2 weeks. Whether through weakness or an intentional effort to bully his own members, Senator Schumer marched the nation to the doorstep of disaster. Embarrassingly, it got to the point where senators on both sides were pleading for leadership to fill the void and protect our children. I stepped up. Remarkably, even as Republicans saved America from this crisis, Senator Schumer kept compounding his failures. Last night, in a bizarre spectacle, Senator Schumer exploded in a rant that was so partisan, angry, and coercive that even Democratic senators were visibly embarrassed by him and for him. This tantrum encapsulated and escalated a pattern of angry incompetence from Senator Schumer. It was reminiscent of last year when he joined a protest on the steps of the Supreme Court and shouted threats at individual justices by name. This childish behavior only further alienated the Republican members who helped facilitate this short-term patch. It has poisoned the well even further. I am writing to make it clear, in light of Senator Schumer's hysterics and my grave concerns about the way that another vast, reckless, partisan spending bill would hurt Americans and help China, I will not be a party to any further future efforts to mitigate the consequences of Democratic mismanagement. Your lieutenant on Capitol Hill now have the time they claim they lacked to address the debt ceiling through standalone reconciliation and all the tools to do it. They cannot invent another crisis and ask for my help.
Can we comment on that, or
Say again?
or you want us to comment on that, or were you?
Yeah, you go ahead
leaving
and
that?
comment on it, and then we'll go to the next topic.
Yeah, finally stick a fork in that guy. Holy crap. I'm so sick of him and I'm starving. I don't care.
I heard turtle soup is
Got
good.
him.
I'm kidding. I don't advocate violence. Joke.
Why do turtles have to die for your soup and that dude keeps running the country? It's not right.
I mean,
Not
look,
right.
let's be clear about something. If we could swap Mitch McConnell with Chuck Schumer, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Because we would have passed so much more legislation because he would not allow people like Sinema and Manchin to dance around in this way. There is some truth to what he says, and that was part of what I said. They need to start doing a reconciliation bill now. However, every step of the way, because part of what their argument was, look, there's a lot of time for people like, they specifically named Ted Cruz, for people like Ted Cruz to mess this up. And when they start, that's why I said start it now, and every time they block it, make it a point to say, we're doing this by ourselves, get the fuck out of the way. That's what I mean when they're doing this. McConnell just wants them to burn a reconciliation package. That's what his goal is. They need to make it very clear. We're going to do this by ourselves. We have no problem doing it ourselves. But you cannot say, do it by yourself, and then Lucy the football every time they try to do it by themselves. Like, you can't obstruct and then pretend that you're not doing it. Like, that's the problem with this. McConnell says this big statement. If you read that, you're like, oh, Schumer's terrible.
Yeah.
But at no point does any Democrat say, we had 4 votes to unilaterally do this by ourselves. We literally had a vote where all you guys had to do was stay silent. They called for unanimous consent to pass it by a 50-vote majority. And all they had to do was shut up, and they couldn't. So you can't say, oh, we refuse to help you. But we're also going to do everything in our power to make sure that you have to do it through reconciliation. Pick a lane. You either don't want anything to do with it, or just come out and say we're going to block every single thing that you do anyway.
North Countryman, I'll let you button it up.
What? Oh, you mean the conversation? Yeah. By the way, I'm not sure how many people are going to get the Lucy Peanuts reference. I made a Miss Congeniality reference a couple of weeks ago, and people were like, "Nope, no clue what that is."
I don't think Zoomers watch us. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, nobody watches me, so
I watch it.
So, I think I'm reminded of. I read like part of John Boehner's memoirs, where he was talking about how he's mayor of Crazy Town, and he had an interaction with Michelle Bachmann, and she wanted to be on. I believe it was. I think it was the Ways and Means Committee as a freshman. You don't get to do that as a freshman. You got to earn your way there. But when he told her that, her response was like, all right, well, I'm just going to go on Fox News and tell them that John Boehner is holding up conservatism. And that, I think, that kind of escape route for, conservatives that want to just act up and cause issues, but them being able to do that, to get in front of eyes and ears, again, bad forms of populism, that gives them a tool to disrupt normal governing processes, which if they didn't have that, or if that were severely limited, then yeah, someone like Mitch McConnell, any of the Senate leaders could more control their caucus, because their members don't have this other way of going. They don't have a back door that they can escape through. Right now they do.
Fair point.
I hope that was semi-coherent.
No, it made a ton of sense. You don't give yourself enough credit. One thing to note is that CSP Nikki, one of our show producers, had said it's not just about time, it's about the reconciliation parameters and rules. During the timing of this, it is important to note that there was not much time due to not having the votes to get reconciliation together within the giant reconciliation bill. So that's why it's kind of a moot point. Also, there are parameters where you can't raise too much of the debt when you do reconciliation and that sort of stuff, and I'm sure that the CBO and Republicans would play games with that. So it's important to note that that is also true. But moving on, we have the Supreme Court is now back in session, and two pending cases are catching our eye. The first up is a decision that sided with the Biden administration. Supreme Court has directed a lower court to dismiss as moot House Democrats' challenges to former President Trump's diversion of military funding to build his border wall. The Biden administration asked the court to dismiss D.C. Circuit Court ruling that found House Democrats had standing to sue over border wall funding, something the executive branch argued would open the courthouse doors to sweeping ranges of confrontations. Trump had directed more than $6 million in military funding to build a border wall between the U.S. and Mexico. But President Biden, on his first day in office, froze construction of the wall, eventually directing the funds elsewhere. By determining the case to be moot, the court sidestepped a rare battle over the appropriations clause of the Constitution, with House Democrats initially arguing Trump usurped their power of the purse by redirecting those funds. When the Biden administration then sought to dismiss the case, House Democrats argued that their suit was fundamentally different from other cases unwound by the reversal from the administration. Citing remarkable circumstances, the House argued that the executive branch provides no reason to think that anything like the scenario here is likely to play out again. So, while Biden seems to me to have made this point moot so that the challenge to executive authority would be limited in order to potentially do something similar, and let that play out in the courts later on, and also not wanting a bunch of things tied up in the courts and utilizing government resources arguing against this. But I want to know your thoughts about this, and then we'll go on to the second court hearing. Go ahead, North.
This is like that line from Beauty and the Beast: "The tale is old as time." Presidents and Congress have been fighting over how much authority the president has over spending since, I'd argue, the age of Andrew Jackson. And Arthur M. Schlesinger, the historian, he wrote The Imperial Presidency, and that's where he kind of starts and argues, the presidency is gaining too much power. And this, I think, is just yet another battle between Congress and the president. And if I could just go a tiny bit longer,
go for it.
There is a term called, I believe it's. The term will come to me later. But what Congress will often do with powers that they have under Article 1 of the Constitution, they'll do things that they administratively, just for logistic reasons, can't do, but they will give power to the executive branch to carry things out. For example, establish the Federal Reserve to deal with interest rates and coining money. They'll set up the IRS to collect taxes. Article 1, technically Congress has to do that, but Congress says, no, we're not doing that. Exec, you do this with our permission. And the line between, okay, how much can the executive branch say, oh yeah, we have permission to do this, versus Congress saying, no, you didn't. Get back here and get our permission. That's an age-old battle that's been going on for decades, and probably not going to stop.
No, that's a very fair point. I mean, the executive branch doesn't want to have to go to Congress to do every little thing it believes it's in its authority to do, because that would cause government to essentially come to a standstill. So I think that's a great point. Universal Discourse, do you want to jump in on this?
Yeah. I still had trouble wading through some of the way this was worded. With the second one too, though. Okay, so the wall is stopped. The funding is diverted. So the SC goes with that decision. You got border wall challengers who want remediation. There's that, all the damage that thing caused. But then there was the earlier decision directing the lower courts to reconsider the earlier rulings freezing funding for the wall. So what I'm looking at is that's the fastest set of reversals that I've ever seen coming from a Supreme Court. I mean, they haven't even gotten some sort of disposition on these diverted funds before they're already being asked to re-examine earlier rulings freezing them. So, again, the people that were put into those chairs, it mirrors exactly what's going on at the House level and in the Senate. Okay, because And I'm not sure. I'm going to have to do things with the Supreme Court. So, I mean, I'd really have to examine the specific exact language. I didn't get a chance to see where these decisions were and these opinions were, and how it's been shunted through the circuit court and back again, and what the exact language is of this. But I can actually, I'm interested actually in breaking this one down on stream.
Okay.
Because this kind of law is like, this is my wheelhouse for this, so it's disturbing to me. He quickly got it stopped and diverted, and then we have new people sitting in the court, and all of a sudden it's this mess, and everything's going retro. There was one, let's go re-examine a First Amendment opinion that the New York Times is shaking right now. You know? So where is all this? Let's go back and take a second look at things. My whole thing is, where is that coming from? That's actually unprecedented. So again, I just suspect that these are just the moles that have been put into the Supreme Court to undermine that as well. What does that have to do with executive authority? It looks like they're gearing up, the opposition, if you will, is literally gearing up to undermine, anything at its foundation that's going to allow a president to function. Well, because they did the opposite, where they disregarded anything that would obstruct their president from functioning. So I just see that they still have quite the control. But when it comes to the Supreme Court, that is your constitutional rights, right? That is the highest law in the land. You realize that, don't you?
Yeah.
So I want to know why people aren't going, why are you touching that? It's to me, it's a panic button to do stuff like this. It's telltale. It's like, oh, this is how civilizations fall very, very, very quickly. These aren't small decisions by any means. Some of them are potentially terminal.
Yeah. Fresh Faces, New Ideas. Thoughts?
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't even realize this was still a case that was happening.
Okay.
The last I remember hearing about this is I knew Trump took the money from the military. He took it literally from the building schools or something in on military bases. And basically they said, oh, we can do this because we'll just backfill it in the military budget and it's fine. And then I know it got stopped, and I remember seeing that Biden was redistributing, but I thought he just returned the money back to the military. I didn't realize what he was doing. I didn't know that was the case. Look, I don't have enough information to really say more than this. I know what Trump didn't seem to be legal, and should Biden do something similar, I would also say it's probably not legal either.
Right.
Just because your president is on your side doesn't mean what they're doing is correct.
For sure.
Yeah.
So look, if that's, and here's the other thing: if their ruling ultimately is that he can't do this and other presidents can't do this, I mean that's the ruling of the Supreme Court, regardless of who's president or not. You can't. I mean, you can challenge it and then hope that they overturn it, but you can't really do much about it if that's what they're ruling.
Can I say that I don't think, although maybe as we say on its face, it may appear to be a challenge to executive dominion, if you will, but actually, specifically, it's directed the lower court to dismiss as moot, specifically as moot, which means the solvency, the solution has been in place, therefore there's no point.
Yeah.
That's common and utterly valid. The concerning thing is to go back and start to reconsider the earlier rulings. That's the one that should bother you, not this one. This one is okay. I get your complaint. Literally, he fixed it. What now? What do you do? What are you whinging about? It's done.
Yeah,
it says moot. There's no point to it.
There's no longer a harm being done, so we can't really feel like, or we don't really think we have the authority to relitigate it since it's not an
However,
ongoing thing.
I do agree that this suit is fundamentally different.
Oh,
So
fair point.
silencing them, I'm sure, started a brouhaha going. I even heard somebody 2 days ago say, oh, the Democrats have turned on Biden.
Not quite, everybody.
Right.
And I went, where did you get that from? Like, the Daily Storm or some shit? Like, where did you get that from? All right.
Well, Dems in disarray is like the media's favorite story.
I mean, it's spicy.
It is now. Yeah.
It's spicy. You know, you can't. The media can't have normalcy. The media has to have chaos, disorder, sensationalism, or else people are like, oh, whatever.
And that's why they're not going to, Evers's, press briefings.
Yeah.
To go right into it.
Yeah. Speaking
right
of,
into it. Yeah.
Speaking of, that is actually the next thing we're talking about.
Oh,
So-
oops.
No, that's
Sorry.
good. Go ahead, North.
Before you jump into this topic, I do need to duck out.
Okay.
At this point.
Duck, duck, go.
Well, North Countryman, we are glad to have you. Glad that you're able to join us. Go ahead and shout yourself out.
Yep, I am a North Countryman.
Hey.
For people with a video, they can see it probably at the bottom there. For people who are listening, it's North with a 0. I mostly stream on Twitch. I've been kind of revamping the schedule and how I want to present things, so I don't really have a schedule that I'm comfortable putting out to the public yet. But if anyone's interested, I'm North Countryman on most things. So you get this level of boring, nerdy politics that I actually think is important. And speaking of nerdy, I now have to go jump into a D&D campaign, and I'm the healer, so they probably need me.
Bro,
Oh, man.
Bro, you joined us and you're the healer? Oh man.
fine.
You gotta go. No, but then again, thank you so much for joining us. I am doing the shout out thing in chat, so for everybody that's watching, please go ahead and give North Countryman a follow. Speaking of follows and all that jazz, follow us too. Smash that bell, ring the bell, smash that like button. It really does help us out on getting us through the algorithmic process. Now, on to the next topic that is also Supreme Court related. So, as Universal Discourse was alluding to, the John K. McIver Institute for Public Policy has filed a lawsuit in 2019 alleging that Evers violated its staffers' constitutional right to free speech, freedom of the press, and equal access. Evers is the current Democratic governor of Wisconsin, and they are being sued by the John K. McIver Institute for Public Policy and former Governor Scott Walker. A judge in 2020 rejected the argument, saying that McIver can still report on Evers without being invited to his press briefings or being on his email distribution list. The Seventh U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in April unanimously upheld that decision. Last month, the McIver Institute asked the U.S. Supreme Court to hear the case. The conservative Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty on Tuesday submitted a brief in support on behalf of Walker, whom Evers defeated in 2010. Walker and his attorney argued that the ruling in favor of Evers allows censorship because it permits picking and choosing which reporters attend press events that have long been open to reporters but closed to the general public. The appeals court ruled earlier this year that Evers' media access criteria was reasonable, and he was under no obligation to grant access for every news outlet to every news conference. Mm-hmm. I'm going to cut reading off from the copy there and state that we all saw how Trump treated the news and media organizations, picking and choosing who could show up, calling on people or not based on his personal preferences, and the Supreme Court seemed perfectly okay with that. But what is going to happen? What is the Supreme Court likely to do in this situation? Are they likely to band together under ideological lines, or is this a case that they're going to uphold a governor, a politician's right to not speak to certain people?
Sorry. It's
No, you can go first.
It's a corpus. The constitutional law is a living document. They're going to stand on precedent. So that way they avoid being seen as hypocrites. So they will stand on precedent. If they ruled it was okay for Trump to do it, then they're going to rule it's okay for this guy to do it, or to dismiss it as unfounded. So most likely they'll simply say, no, the other guy got to do it. This guy can do it too.
And it's also important to note that Walker also limited who could and could not attend his briefings as well. Fresh Faces, what's your opinion on this?
Well, I mean, if he did it, it makes sense that the other guy would do it. Also, like Walker is one of those guys, the Republicans, like he was a shining star for a while, and then he like was so bad that they like made him go away forever. He was a disaster, and they like pretend he doesn't exist anymore. But look, I actually think I remember this being an issue with the Obama administration as well.
Yeah.
Look, I don't mind having them go there. I think there's a difference. So with the Trump administration, it was different because while Stephanie Grisham, who's in the news again, because apparently, shocker, her memoir is full of shit.
Oh dear.
Just didn't do.
She really should have that looked at. It sounds like a condition.
She was the press secretary, and for like a year, just didn't hold any public briefings. She just went on Fox.
And a press secretary. Okay.
Yeah, she was the press. It's like she did nothing. So I don't remember a suit coming to her. It's possible they did, and it got lost in everything. But the difference being that Trump was infinitely accessible in a way other presidents weren't. The problem was you couldn't have a conversation with him in the same way you could talk to a press secretary because he has no idea what's happening to him 90% of the time.
Yes, you could. You just didn't. You just couldn't use really big words.
Well, also, if you like talking about
You're
specific
fake news.
policies, you couldn't talk about like specific policies with him because he doesn't know any of the policies. Like if you talk to like Jen Psaki, she'll say, "Okay, I'm going to direct you to this," or I'll have an understanding. Look, I don't mind. You can let them in the room. You just don't have to call on them. OAN and Newsmax and some of these crazy groups are in the White House press briefing. They never have to call on them. They're still allowed to be there. Like, I don't give. If you don't call on them, who cares? However, seems hypocritical. I'm for letting them all in and then just ignoring them because I remember the first time I heard. I think her name is Chanel. She's the OAN White House correspondent. The first time I saw her in a news briefing was during the COVID pandemic. And I swear to God, it was the craziest question. She said, now that the Democrats have been proven to be in line with the communist, Marxist, Buddhist, pedophile vampires, it was like something along
communist,
those lines.
Marxist, Buddhist, yeah.
Like Chinese. Like she said this in a press conference during the Trump administration. And every reporter in the room looked at her like just let them in. Let them in, and if you don't call on them, they can't say crazy shit. Look.
Oh, but then by not calling, though, Fresh Faces, they're also having their rights violated. The whole idea that Republicans are taking with this is if they're not called on, get the chance to speak, or any of this stuff, it doesn't matter where it's coming from, whether it's from media companies or whatever. It's a violation of their fundamental rights to be assholes.
Wait.
But that's no. If you were talking about the press,
oh my god,
that press doesn't have to ask the question. You're in the room. There's a whole bunch of people. They have a limited amount of time. If you don't get called on, in your tinier network, it's less of an issue. Like they'll still call on Peter Ducey. He doesn't know what's going on 80% of the time, and like half of the reason people like Jen Psaki is because all she does is call him an idiot all the time. There's still other right-wing outlets. You're not special.
True.
You're in the new. As long as they say, look, you're just in the room. You don't have to be. You don't have to talk to them. You want to talk to the press secretary? You go through whatever the proper channels is. They had under no obligation to answer your questions. In the same way that when the president has a press conference, he's in no obligation to answer your questions either.
I just like how he pieces out.
Yeah, like, look, I don't care.
As long as if they're in the room, fine. Let them in the room. I don't care. You don't have to talk to them. But this seems hypocritical, and I think it's mostly because Scott Walker's mad that he's been banished to Siberia.
Fair point. Fair point.
Okay. There was and I do this all the time. This is a Supreme Court ruling. And it had to do with a group. They were talking about either evolution or sex ed in school or something. And there was one of those real fanatic churches that would like show up and protest your funeral, gross things like that.
Western Baptist?
Yeah. Remember that ruling? That
No, I
you
just
couldn't
remember
have, what's the word they used for every viewpoint discrimination? This looks like that's what they're trying to base this crap on.
Yeah.
Which tells you where the source is. The source is coming from that same sector. So this really resembles as if they were claiming viewpoint discrimination, but they're not calling it that.
Well,
We have the right to show up at your designated forum. That's exactly what they're arguing. It's like, no, you don't. You know?
The government officials constitutionally do have more limits than private individuals when it comes to free association.
Yeah, they do.
But at the same time, they still get to freely associate more or less. Like there was this other case, or this other lawsuit where people were claiming that AOC banning people or blocking people on her Twitter was a violation of their constitutional rights to petition the government, I guess.
Well,
And
they did that with Trump, too.
Yeah, you see, it's the same exact argument.
Yeah, it's the same thing. But I don't know if that one made it to the Supreme Court or not. I don't recall. But they definitely they definitely upheld it. I know that the court, whatever court it was, I don't remember what level it was, said that it was perfectly fine for her to do that.
Of course,
yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene was in one of those as well. I know Trump was. But I remember Marjorie Taylor Greene saying something about that in reference to, or maybe it was Candace Owens. I get all the lunatics of which thing they go after AOC for.
Right. I think it might have been Shinovik, honestly. It's that sued, or Matt Walsh. It was definitely a bigger commentator that did it.
These are tactics that the sort of the neo-right extremists also use. It's extremely sloppy application of constitutional law, and everything they do is always freedom of speech. Always. It's like that's the hill they're going to die on now. That's what they're standing on now. Also know that in the upcoming Charlottesville Unite the Right rally trial, they're all looking to me quite a bit nervous. So, because that trial is also going to establish a precedent about whether the promoter of an event is responsible for damages or not. And I have a feeling that these two are related. It's coming up in 11 days.
Yeah, and didn't you interview one of the people who was involved in that lawsuit?
A defendant.
Defendant, yeah.
Guess who's getting a courthouse press pass? Speaking of which,
go for it. Shout yourself out.
They've restricted who they will and will not allow. So if we want to see viewpoint discrimination, let's see how bad the ADL and SBLC are. We'll find out. So I'm about to apply to go through the process to find out how much they are discriminating, and it's related to this. No, they can't let everybody in. Yeah, they can. They had them all sitting outside the courthouse, and then you have in court, you get to watch a video, but nobody can get inside the court.
Yeah.
Due to the nature of the case, you got a very high security risk.
For sure.
I can understand that for a trial. When you start cherry picking for a press event, and your job is to disseminate information to the populace, it's a little bit ridiculous to say, I don't want that reporter here. And I'm like, well, see that intern pouring your coffee? His phone's on and he's recording you.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't know what a citizen's witness was? Oh, well. Welcome to the new world, Boomer. So, you know what I'm saying? It just does seem a little ridiculous. It sounds like old boys doing old school crap from an old decision, which tells me these old church boys with a fundamentalism, because they do a very sloppy job at attempting to Hail Mary to the Supreme Court. Very sloppy, because their ideology gets in the way, and it's a crisis of faith. When they do things like this, it almost causes cognitive dissonance.
Well, they have no problem with that.
Well, nobody wants to live like that, but it causes a kind of dissonance because separation of church and state.
Yeah, but they don't care about that.
Yeah, they do. They do it. They lose when they do that. They don't. No, I know it frustrates them because I'm from the deep south, so I saw this.
I think what he means is that they think the separation of church and state shouldn't exist, so they don't care if that is what you're getting at. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Let's be clear. They only care about it if it's for certain religions.
Yes, if it's Christians and you're denying Christians the ability to impose their rule on others, God forbid. But have an Islamic school anywhere in the country, it's indoctrination.
Islamic Center. I live in New York. I'm like okay.
Oh wow.
Gotcha.
So I'm a little further south than north. How long did they talk about that mosque on 9/11? That was
oh god,
that was like 3 years. Ridiculous.
It was a community.
Built,
it wasn't a plot. Yeah,
like it's built now, right? It's an operation.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking stupid. That was such a dumb thing. I'm not gonna rant about it because we're pressed for time. But if you look it up, it was the dumbest thing on the face of the planet. They actually.
I mean, that's why like this is clearly spiraling off topic, but people saying, "Oh, I wish America was united as it was on September 12th." I was like,
"No, you don't."
you fantasize about it, but like they beat a sheik man to death an hour later.
Yeah. We do have a comment saying from Nikki saying they are not press agencies though in relation to the group that we were talking about, and then in relation to what Trump did and the ruling that he had there, Trump was using the official account of the presidency, and that's the difference. So they did make a difference between official accounts led by ran by government officials and individuals' personal accounts. So that is that there. I think we did. Go ahead. If you have...
Yeah, I was going to ask. I'm glad Nikki brought that up. I am a little confused as to might be the wording of this. A conservative think tank and former Wisconsin Republican governor Scott Walker. These are two different things, right?
Yeah. So yep.
Are asking the Supreme Court to hear, which means to listen to them, challenge Evers. So the John K. McIver Institute for Public Policy.
Yep.
It's not a media agency.
Walker, it's further down in the copy. Walker also wrote a brief in support of the institute, so as a separate entity.
Okay, but that's not a media. Okay.
Yeah,
that's not a media agency. You're right. So how can you see what I mean about doing a really sloppy job? These kind of glaring lapses in reasoning and logic, typical, right?
Yeah, no, for sure, and because what and I'm going to bring this point home. If it's negatively happening to Republicans, then it is the end of the world. But if it's negatively happening to Democrats, then it's saving the country. And so if they can weasel their way to get recognized as anything, whether it's a nonprofit, a media organization, a group of concerned citizens with no party affiliation at all, they're going to do it in order to leverage the power. Now, Democrats do this too, but they don't do it as well. And that's probably the thing.
As loud about it. Let's be clear about the echo chambers that we have are not comparable. That's why this
I wouldn't go that far, bro. Have you seen Twitter?
Yeah, but Twitter doesn't have the same type of
I don't think that has the same type of reach as like, all the entire right wing and their ability to like fund corporations that aren't designed to make money. Things like Breitbart and Daily Wire and then
Okay, I get what you're saying.
That's what I'm referring.
But then again,
they amplify it to a wider range, and also like,
well,
that's how they
so the liberals do have that kind of thing with media too, though. Like we can't ignore the ideological bubbles that we find ourselves in, and the media in general leans left, and so they're able to, and it's not anything nefarious. It's not like they're coming together to collude or anything like that, but they tend to have a similar worldview, and so they amplify each other when they make these kind of things. The difference being is that Republicans have started doing this in a concerted effort starting in, I want to say 74, with the establishment of think tanks, and also creating think tanks that are carbon copies of other think tanks that they did, with new people in charge, and all piggybacking off of themselves to what we should be doing, not should be doing, but what I should talk about in some type is manufacturing consent and manufacturing the air of public agreement or disagreement over a certain topic, i.e. Global warming. But shout out to
that's
just
otherwise known as propaganda.
Yeah, no, propaganda is very much a thing.
That's a propaganda machine.
Yeah. And that's what manufacturing consent was all about. Shout out to Geek with Glasses for following us. We really appreciate it, man. Thank you. But I think we covered this topic really extensively. So if you're just now joining the news roundup, again, I'm the host and moderator of Crowdsource Politics, Cypher, and this is the Crowdsource Politics News Roundup. We do this every Thursday from about 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to about 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All our shows are actually call-in shows. We haven't had a call-in yet, or at least not for a while, but if you do want to get on the air and have your questions answered, go ahead and hit me up in the Discord, which the link will come at you shortly. And you can join us on Discord to get your questions answered on air or on camera if you prefer, through the program that we are currently using. We will also be doing another podcast for Cypher State. Cypher State is a foreign affairs and foreign policy focused podcast, monthly podcast where we talk about the issues facing the world and the kind of analysis or analyzing what that might mean for geopolitical forces going forward. This week's episode, which is on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, will be covering the German elections and what it means for the EU and the world at large. So be sure to tune on that wherever you get your podcast, or live on Twitch, Twitter, or Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. So moving on, January 6th Select Committee. Earlier this week, members of Congress, including Republican member Liz Cheney, said there will be a criminal charges for contempt of Congress brought against anyone who refused to comply with the order to testify, and today the committee took steps to make good on that pledge. CNN reported earlier today with the House Select Committee officially announcing their decision to move forward with criminal contempt for Steve Bannon. The next step is for the committee to hold a business meeting on October 19th. The chair, Benny Thompson, said, Mr. Bannon has declined to cooperate with the Select Committee and is instead hiding behind former president's insufficient, blanket, and vague statements regarding privileges he has purported to invoke. Thompson said in the statement, "We reject his position entirely. The business meeting is the first step to proceed with criminal contempt. In this meeting, the committee will move to adopt a contempt report, which outlines the efforts the committee made to get a witness to comply with the subpoena and the failure by the witness to do so. This report is then referred to the House for a vote. If the vote succeeds, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi certifies the report of the U.S. Attorney to the U.S. attorneys for the District of Columbia. Under law, this certification then requires the U.S. attorney to bring the matter before grand jury for its action. Any individual who is found liable for contempt of Congress is then guilty of a crime that may result in a fine between 1 and 12 months in prison, but this process is rarely invoked and rarely leads to jail time." So, thoughts, opinions? Let's go. Let's have it.
First impression, I haven't heard these names in so long. It seems like ancient history since 2016. Mark Meadows, Dan Scavino, Stephen Bannon, Kash Patel.
Well, Mark Meadows was the last chief of staff, wasn't he?
Yeah, but like, I haven't heard those names.
But that was like 5 news cycles ago.
But do you know what I mean? Yeah, put together all together in one place. Like it's been a minute since I saw them all together again. Okay. Man, the first thing I'm thinking is obstruction. You know? Yeah. What do you mean? Invoke your immunities to the fullest extent permitted by law. Well, okay. Why? You know, what do you got to hide? I want to know how Watergate Tricky Dick is going to screw this one up because, I mean, you know, go figure. That's really interesting. I don't know what the outcome of this is. It's one of these. Let's see. So the select committee, House Select Committee investigation.
That's the 9 members, and so they have to. So what happened is they have to wait 3 days for their way their process works. Is they have to wait 3 days to initiate this vote. So I guess that's to give him a chance to come forward. He's clearly not do this. I don't know why they didn't initiate this earlier because he said it right. I was like basically threw up the middle fingers like, hey man, I'm not coming in no matter what. I'm arguing executive privilege, even though I haven't worked in the White House since 2017. I don't remember when Bannon got removed. Because then he went to jail for a while, I think.
His ass didn't even last. He didn't make it.
Yeah. That wasn't Bannon. That was Manafort. Bannon didn't go to.
Bannon didn't go to prison. No,
Bannon
he was already
to prison, but he got sued
indicted
for fraud.
Well, that was for the wall. That was for the wall stuff. That was. I thought he got. Okay, I forget which criminal works in that.
Manafort. It was Manafort. You're thinking of Manafort.
I know Manafort. I just didn't remember Bannon. I know he lost court case because they did a whole bunch of stuff. Anyway.
Here you go. Thompson threatening criminal referrals for witnesses who do not comply with the subpoenas. Said the panel expected witnesses to cooperate. Now that would include Trump.
Yeah. Well, he also simultaneously today, the New York Supreme Court, I believe, said that he has to show up for a video deposition for a case of I can't remember what this case was. It's
yes, he does.
It's something to do with
taxes.
Staffer.
Yeah,
I thought it was a staffer thing that he had to.
You're probably right. You're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah, this one I think is a staffer thing that something happened in 2015 that he now has to show for deposition. So this isn't a precedent. And the other thing is the Biden administration. I don't know if it was the rape case. I know that's a different case entirely. That guy's under so many fucking criminal cases. I know the Biden administration
is a scuzz bucket. Like
the Biden administration has waived his executive privilege. They're like, yeah, we looked into this. Have at it. So I don't know how the non-president can say that the current president doesn't have the ability to decide what executive privilege is. Because then couldn't Obama come out and say, well, no, you don't have that executive privilege because I preceded you. And then ultimately, I guess Jimmy Carter wins. But like, do we really have to decide this with like the bajillion-year-old man who just wants to be a peanut farmer and build houses? Like, come on. Everything about this is ridiculous on its face. And
but what are the implications of it?
Somebody has to be held accountable for this. Like, they should not be able to block this.
Look at this being handled. Compare this to the Charlottesville trial.
I haven't followed this or Charlottesville.
Oh, start. This will be your first and last chance.
I mean, look, we know there's a lot more public information that we wish that they were doing for this. There are certainly members of Congress who need to be talked to about this, whether it's McCarthy, whether it's Mo Brooks, who, again, every time we talk about Mo Brooks in this, showed up at the Ellipse wearing bulletproof vest.
Yeah.
Why would he do that if there was a peaceful protest that wasn't planned before or anything like that? Or
He admitted to being warned ahead of time by somebody in a text message.
Or we have Lauren Boebert tweeting out Nancy Pelosi's location during it. Or we have, these are the people, like, going after the Bannons and the Patels and the Mark Meadows. Cool, great. It's a pound of flesh, but it doesn't, like, if you're not going after the people who, if not directly instigated, help do this, they can do it again.
Isn't this treason though?
Yeah, I would say it is for sure.
Can we take a very quick look at what the definition of it is? Because the immediate pushback was an insurrection is your constitutional right. Okay. Obstructing a voting process is not your constitutional right. Okay. I was like, that's treason. So, see, to me, I'm going, this is nowhere near an accusation of treason. Language is utterly missing. Even normal terminology, vernacular, if you will. And I'm going, what exactly are you hoping to accomplish?
And that's the other thing. Like, the other thing that they're worried about is they've called Bannon in before. Like,
and he's worthless. Oh my God. Have you ever talked to him?
No.
Oh.
You've talked
I
to
don't know
him?
how I would ever
Yeah.
get...
Oh, yeah. We had to deal with Trump on a Gulf Coast after Katrina. Holy, and Bannon was there. Jeez. God.
To the definition of treason, Article 3, Section 3, Clause 1 of the U.S. Constitution states, treason against the United States consists only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of at least 2 witnesses to the same overt act.
So no, this is
of a
not
confession
treason.
in the open
Yeah, and
court.
also...
This is not treason. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, I would worry about using treason in this
That's
way.
a hard ass word to use.
Yeah.
Because
What about, would this
I
be
mean,
sedition?
Insurrection's big enough of a...
So this is sedition.
And they should charge some of them with insurrection.
Yeah.
Like, that would be nice, because one of this is one of the criticisms of Merrick Garland is they're not charging these people with insurrection. And that's how the Dinesh D'Souza's, the Charlie Kirks, all these crazy people, like, look, the Rob Noors, they're saying they're not even charging them with an insurrection.
See what I mean? It's missing. The language is missing. This looks like conspiracy, collusion, and sedition.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, you're gonna call Bannon in, but Bannon's not gonna tell you anything. Like, there needs to just get the documents, like, get their phone records. McCarthy can bitch about it, but he doesn't have the authority or the legal standing to block them subpoenaing his phone records.
So what they do is they'll call the deposition, all right? If they're not getting, like you said, what they want, then they have a lot of fancy terminology in one little page full of 3 paragraphs that then calls in all of your records, and they have forensics look at all of it, and then that could take months.
And that's all it is they're going to, especially if they wind this through the court. Like, this is not new for them to slow this up. Don McGahn just testified like 3 months ago about something that they brought up in like 2018. This is not something that, like, if this goes to court, they have to expedite this. This is not something they can play footsie with. And we find out in 2023 that, oh, look, it turns out Trump actually was responsible for this, or whatever the documents are. It's irrelevant. We need to, especially for a group that they are going to get, they're going to end like next year. They said they're going to end before the election. That's a problem. But we need the answers. And yeah, look, there's precedent for them jailing people. How long was what was her name? She had a funny name. One of the whistleblowers. It wasn't a Reality Winner. How long was she in jail for stuff like that? For not cooperating.
I mean, Snowden's still on the run, so.
and they tried to assassinate Julian Assange. That was a wild one.
Right. So, it's a crazy fucking thing, man. I swear to God. The one of the things that they're also trying to get is let's see, committee also issued a subpoena to Stop the Steal LLC, an organization affiliated with
Ali
the event.
Alexander.
Yep, Ali Alexander and Nathan Martin. In the weeks before the attack, Mr. Alexander, far-right activist and conspiracy theorist, repeatedly referred during Stop the Steal events to the possible use of violence to achieve the organization's goals, which is terrorism, 100% terrorism. And he claimed to have been in communication with the White House and members of Congress about events planned to undermine the certification of Electoral College results, the committee said.
I think he directly named Mo Brooks and Paul Gosar. I'm certain it's Mo Brooks. I don't remember which one else he did. But look, the beauty of this thing is there has never been a crime that has been so well documented by the people committing the crime in which to argue that, like,
They doxed themselves. It was brilliant. I know.
like Derrick Henry, the Virginia lawmaker. Derrick Henry is in the Capitol, and then they arrested him. These people, like,
wait. It also gave us the meme of the century. We're trying to have a revolution over here, and I got maced. God bless that girl. That poor baby. I'm so sorry. Oh my God.
Storming the Capitol. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I wish you could
Trying
put
to
that
have a
on.
revolution here, and they got maced me.
Every single one of them that walked out and then talked to whatever reporter they didn't destroy when they attacked all their information, or like Dylan Burns was there. He was reporting this. Like they all like, yeah, Trump told us to do this.
Fucking running. I watched his ass. He was like, oh shit. That little dude is cool. That little dude is cool.
Only 22.
And touring news too.
Yeah, he's so young.
Those guys, I swear. Nice job, guys.
Touring news, I miss you, buddy. If you're watching this or tuning into this at any time, you're more than welcome to come back on the show.
He's back.
I know back. He does his farming thing. I know. I'm gonna say I miss him on the show.
I love him. Oh my God. He's lovely. Man.
To put a firm point on this. Section 223, what is that?
This is how I feel about this.
That's backwards, so I can't read it.
Yeah, I can't read it either.
I brought popcorn.
Oh, okay. Movie popcorn. Nice.
Yes, I did.
So, section 2383 of the Crimes and Criminal Procedures, Treason, Sedition, and Subversion Activities in 18 USC chapter 115 states that rebellion and insurrection is whoever incites, sets foot on, assists, or engages in any rebellion or insurrection against the authority of the United States or the laws thereof, or gives an aids comfort to thereto, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both, and shall be incapable of holding any public office under the United States. So I think insurrection and rebellion actually is the proper term for this here rather than treason, and I just wanted to give the full definition of that while we had the time.
Yeah, but look at the just like the bullet point, the Washington Post, brilliant. Trump's not president anymore. He's trying to claim executive privilege to stop the committee from getting more. He isn't receiving any subpoenas, but the committee has asked, and Biden has said, sure, I'll give you the records. Trump can try to go to court. Oh my God. Bannon, who won't cooperate with anybody, is trying to cite executive privilege, even though he didn't work in the White House at the time. I told you, sloppy. People on the receiving end of these, that sounds so invasive, of these subpoenas, including any members of Congress that the committee might try to talk to, could try to fight them, arguing that they're politically motivated. I would say taking over a nation is definitively politically motivated. I don't care. There's no getting around it. But, quote, no court has recognized that as a reason in itself. Right. And everybody signed off on it. This is where the specter of those SCOTUS decisions. And here comes Tricky Dick. Damn it. We thought he was a ghost.
Also, like this is something I think of. Like when they're defending these people, and you are one of the people who listens to Gosar and Marjorie Taylor Greene, ask yourself why your lawmakers are defending Antifa and Black Lives Matter, because that's who you believe attacked the Capitol. So why are they fighting so hard? It's not even. It's one lady yelling that she saw an Antifa.
No. There's a specific individual. It was a black guy. His brother is a conservative activist. I can't remember the dude's name. I hate to say it, but Blumenthal actually did a pretty good report on it. Fuck him for everything else, and I don't care if I lose followers over that because Blumenthal's a piece of shit. But but he actually did good reporting on this particular individual. Look it up. I think it was called a Chaos Agent is the name of the story.
Either way,
send me that. I think I saw that. Blumenthal?
Yeah, Max Blumenthal.
Not Mort Rosenblum. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. But I mean, my point stands. Like, if your lawmakers are defending, and also the other question is, remember when this started, or they did Nancy Pelosi did theirs? McCarthy said we're going to do our own January 6th commission. Where's yours?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
ironically,
wanted...
his name is McCarthy. Sorry.
I mean, they wanted to do this in order to muddy the political waters. That's the only reason why they did any of this.
Well, yeah, because that's somebody's ass.
Oh yeah.
You know?
I mean, if we weren't so politically divided, and if there was a little bit more chutzpah among the Senate Democratic senators, we would see more and more of these people probably going to prison. Leftist Al, thank you for
Are you sure you
in.
mean chutzpah?
Yes, I mean...
Well, that means that's vibrant, positive energy that's not always a good thing.
I mean...
Is that what you mean? Or did you mean cojones?
Both, because
okay.
So if think about it, if you want somebody to go over the top and go after these people, then you know, what is it, tit for tat comes into a play of it, and then they go after you and all this stuff. So yeah, I think both works.
The outrage and the growing extremism, which I have a little report for you, and the danger of the public reaction, because that whole sector, including some conservative Twitch streamers, are saying that they were only exercising their constitutional rights, that they're political prisoners, that they shouldn't be held accountable, that they shouldn't be arrested, that it's only going to make them worse. That's looming over everybody.
I hate that.
I mean, they don't want to have it. I mean, they already have a martyr. What more do you...
Well, do you want 30 million people to decide to act in concert? Because that's where it's going.
No, because I want them to get punished so they get cowardly and don't do anything, because that's the only way that you can actually stop
these people. You want to punish them, or do we need an opportunity to understand what happened?
But we do need to understand. But once we understand, we can punish them.
I don't want to punish those people. I want to know who poured the Kool-Aid. That's who I want to go after.
Sure.
Because they are getting away scot-free. And these people,
well, that's what this committee is for.
Were poor, ordinary
Well,
people.
no, that's actually not true.
They were ordinary people, but I won't say that they were poor. A lot of these people were
generally
upper middle class.
Middle class, because
people were taking private jets to go to the riot.
And the ones who were
the means.
Yeah.
So many of those people. Okay, you forget that I'm actually researching this, right?
Sure.
Oh, I can bring you a little.
Give us some levity. Go lay it on us.
It's not levity. The majority of these folks, many who came up there, they lived in the South. All right. The thing that triggered the whole, this looks like a conspiracy, is that many of these people set aside funds to afford a plane and hotel just in case Biden won. And so it looks a lot like a conspiracy, but no, they really hate him and they really do love Trump. These were definitely working class people. Maybe not the best informed, right? But they were often the breadwinners, head of household.
I can agree with that.
All right, so that's the majority of folks there. All right,
sure.
The Proud Boys running in the front, this ridiculous QAnon shaman, all of these folks, right?
Yeah,
who had the means.
That's who I want to get punished.
The ways and means. Those guys. Yeah. No, nothing for those guys. That's it. Yeah. Done. Gone. Boom.
Suspect sushi should be.
I'm not sure the sheep should be eaten alive by wolves because the shepherd led them into the jaws of those wolves. I don't think that people don't make that where you ball them all up into one basket. Just avoid that.
Okay,
a lot of these people were misled and destroyed. Their lives are destroyed now.
like there's the easiest distinction. There's the ones who led. There's the ones who fought the police. There's the ones who actually planned to do damage.
Oh,
Those
the
are
ones who fought the police? No, they're gone.
Right. There's a distinction between them and the ones who, like, after they were in the Capitol for 4 hours, the ones who kind of just wandered in and took a whole bunch of pictures. Like, clearly they deserve some type of penalty, like basic trespassing or something, like minor trespassing. But obviously, you don't throw the book at them. Like the first one that got charged like 8 months.
Yeah.
And people were mad at it. But he was like kind of just like an idiot who wandered in. Like he didn't really do anything.
Trespassing.
Right.
What happened to suspect Sushi? Does anybody have the actual facts without the emotion?
I don't know who he is.
Do you remember, Cypher? What happened to him?
I know that he was actually directly involved with planning with the other Proud Boy leadership, national leadership, in order to incite violence in there. And as far as what is criminal stuff is going against him, I don't know if there is anything criminally.
It's a conspiracy to incite violence. Okay, it is identical to the Charlottesville trial, so I'm really encouraging everybody to take a look at that because I will be streaming that sucker live.
Sure, check it
out.
Do
it, on your channel. It's one of the most important things that's going to happen. It's the second most now, but
no, for sure.
Yeah.
I think we covered this pretty extensively. There is a we have about 20 minutes left, so we're gonna hit to it for a little bit more. We have a recent espionage attempt that was foiled by the FBI. The FBI arrested an Annapolis, Maryland couple this past Saturday for attempting to sell nuclear secrets to a foreign government in exchange for, of course, cryptocurrency.
How did they get nuclear secrets?
U.S. Navy nuclear engineer Jonathan Tebby and his wife Diane were arrested Saturday in West Virginia by the FBI and the National Criminal Investigative Services, or NCIS.
Sucks
they
to
were
be you.
arraigned Tuesday morning, and to bring that as much as we can to y'all, we're going to go ahead and play a little bit of clip from CBS News.
I can't wait to see this shit.
Let's see,
this shit is really funny.
Oh, why aren't... Hold on. Oh, I maximized it. Okay, hold on. There we go. All right. Give me 1 second. I'm going to play it.
Very smart, trusted insider. They do their research. They're trying to commit the perfect crime. They don't want to get caught.
The case revolves around the technology behind these high-tech U.S. subs, and the court records read like an espionage thriller. After allegedly telling an unidentified foreign government last year he wanted to sell nuclear secrets for cryptocurrency,
the
FBI got tipped off by that country and began a months-long surveillance operation. Among the sensational allegations, the Tebby passed information hidden inside Band-Aids, bubblegum wrappers, and even a peanut butter sandwich.
So it's a very novel approach to an old traditional.
Very novel.
So that's why I had to play that video for y'all.
This story is so wild.
Because it is 100% ridiculous. I was given... How much am I
trying so hard not to laugh?
153. I'm supposed to play this until 153 according to our producer. Is it 153?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, because I don't want to get us I don't want to get us hit on YouTube, so I'm going ahead and cut it there. But
tell the producer, look, I'm sorry, I already lost it. I couldn't get past the dude's face. I was like, oh my god.
Listen, this story is great. Apparently they also were doing stuff in Windows. So first off, so I was watching somebody else cover this. And they were saying that we think it's the French who is the country that tipped us off, which makes makes the nuclear thing that we were having with the French even weirder. So like they could have just taken the secrets. But also this group was doing stuff like
I get it.
Windows. Like they were doing like in the windows, you leave the fourth window on the third floor open or some weird like it was. This group is like they watch too much of the Americans before.
Correct. Yeah.
Like
this is just. But the thing is, like these are like average people. Like
well, okay.
I mean, average. I don't know about average. Let's see. What
typical?
Guys?
They're typical.
Yeah.
Nuclear engineering, Navy nuclear engineers. Those people are pretty high ranked. That guy is probably a captain or so.
That would be like me selling the launch codes to
Yeah.
an ICBM. That's exactly
How
what
much
that
higher would
shit
that
is.
be than CTV?
I don't remember what's his rank. No, I don't know. what
I
his
don't
rank-
know. I just know he was on a sub. I don't know anything else about his military.
I think he was enlisted, so above him. But
He was enlisted. He
I
wasn't
can't
an
say for sure.
officer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was enlisted.
But this is just like too funny. It's just like really dumb people trying to do something like incredibly dangerous.
Oh, no, but wait. They had it all figured out. And they'd read everything about everything. And here they decided one candlelit night with the corpses of their friends who used to be witnesses and they're writing their manifesto. Darling, I love you till the end of time. We will own all the cryptocurrency by selling nuclear secrets. Okay, how do you think we should do this? God, you know, we're going to be heroes. Here we go. We're going to buy our own planet when we're done, and then nobody will ever find us. I love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Okay, and so then they cooked this up, right? All smoke and mirrors, right? Right? They probably wore disguises and like got off on them because they thought, ooh, now we're hot, we're terrorists or something, we're cool, right?
Wow.
Great for
Hey,
their
don't
sex
keep
life. I'm serious. I'm not done. I got a handy wipe, over here, dispenser. Boom, there you go. Just you in your hand tonight. Here we go. Now they're going to figure out, oh, suck. France is really mad that they got cut out of the deal because the nuclear subs went to Australia without their ass. Let's make a deal with France. Yeah. And and I'm like, what a bubble in La La Land made you think? See, somebody told them, call this number, leave that sign, open the window this way, stand here wearing red. They put them through such a mind F and laugh their asses off all the way to the end, just like, look how gullible. And here, and this you're going to get a hold of our guy, and he's in France, and you'll know it by the accent, Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but like
France be like, I'm going to give you auto cryptocurrency for your nuclear codes. Check this out.
Yeah,
That's what I see happening. Now, do they still love each other? That's what I want to know. It's my only question.
Go for it, Fish.
after
Faces.
like it's funny because this broke apart, but would we be laughing if this had gone to China or
China
some
has
other
nukes.
Yeah, or okay, what if it had gone to North Korea? Like if these people had been smarter about this or had to go like this is the beauty of a lot of this stuff. I was watching the Comey rules recently.
Russia Gate.
Yeah, where this scene where Papadopoulos is talking to the Australian diplomat in London.
Oh, yeah.
The beauty of this is these people they just like tell the wrong people, and eventually one of these people is going to be a little bit smarter, and realistically, it's lucky that it was an ally and it wasn't like somebody who we're not as close to. So yeah, it is funny because we caught them, and I imagine because they knew that they had this thing set up for them, they probably put them a little bit more through the ringer.
That's why it's funny, is because it did go. They knew that was an ally, though. That's what I'm sorry. You knew that was an ally. I mean, if somebody had done that with North Korea and they were finally able to mount, and then bang, went Hawaii or something, or the Pacific Rim. Yeah, that would be like what was that? Ethel and the famous treasonous couple that were executed.
Oh, the Jews, right? It was.
I don't know who they were, what they were. Ethel and anyway,
Rosen.
They sold secret to Russia, right? So and they executed them. So that's what I imagine.
McCarthy. They were like the first big McCarthy spies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Rosensteins.
Rosenseed?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Rosenstein.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that's what I imagine, except not old and not really spies. These people just sound like. I want to know, were they actually planted there? And does she still love him? That's what I want to know. I'd love to interview them. I'd give anything.
It might have been her idea.
But she want that money. No, he ain't worth a damn. Does she still love him? That's what I want to know.
If you're going to try to
is
get
he Mr.
money,
Invisible?
don't do crypto, bro.
But it's the money of the future.
No.
It can't be tracked and it's non-taxable.
Ugh. It can be tracked so easily, but I
so can
digress.
stupidity. It leaves a wide
Exactly.
swath everywhere it goes. And this was the best. I want their pictures framed, and I'm gonna hang it somewhere in the homeless shelter. See, look, that's what it gets you. Stupid games, stupid prizes.
No, for
Does
sure.
she still
100%.
love him? Is all I want to know.
Well, I mean, maybe tune in next week. Maybe you'll find out. Moving on to the next topic.
Perfect.
All right. Renew America movement is to back Democrats in defiance of Trump. A group of Republicans have formed the group RAM to back vulnerable Democrats in key races in an effort to prevent Trumpian Republicans from winning the House in 2022. The group includes former Republican governors Christine Todd Whitman of New Jersey and Bill Weld of Massachusetts. RAM has endorsed Representative Abigail Spanberger of Virginia and Alessa Slotkin of Michigan and Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, all Democrats locked in close contests. The group is also supporting Republican House members such as Cheney of Wyoming and Adam Kinzinger from Illinois, who are among a handful of elected Republicans to denounce Trump and his baseless voter fraud claims. Trump's allegations were rejected by dozens of courts, state election officials, and members of his own administration. My question to the two of you is, does this matter, or is it going to actually have any impact, or do they have enough money backing to actually kind of like steer things? Is this really an attempt to make Democrats beholden to conservative interest? What's going on here?
Democrats beholden to conservative interests?
Sure,
Okay.
if
The first thing I noticed is there's an extremely violent extremist movement with the acronym RAM. It's called the Rise Against movement. Couldn't help but notice it. That's
Rise Again. Yeah,
that's very poor taste, and ouch.
they probably didn't know. Honestly,
I bet they did. That's what I suspect. The RAM bumps you in the butt. It's like they're gonna do political boogaloo. You know what I mean? Instead of a racial holy war, it's a political holy war. That's what I actually think they're doing. I'm not kidding. No, I'm not going to take it back either, and I don't care. That's what I think they're doing, because that's ridiculous.
The
Democrats don't need the Republicans to butt them in the butt to get them to do something. This is ridiculous.
The people that are involved in just to be clear, the people that are involved in this are like Bill Weld, who stopped being a Republican to run as a libertarian because he thought Republicans were getting too crazy and not actually conservative.
You mean they're like expatriated politicals?
Yeah, so it's
you're telling me these are bitter Republicans?
Yeah, I would say they're bitter Republicans and moderates.
Wait, the athlete Jenner.
Caitlyn,
who cares?
Yeah, when is she when is she going to run? Because
I mean, she tried to run in California.
Well, maybe she'll win this time.
No. Look, I don't know. I don't know how much of a pull they're really going to have. Yeah, look, if they keep Democrats from being elected, that's great. I think having better Democrats would be. Well, they're backing. No, because some of those are Democrats. Spanberger.
Yeah, but you said keep Democrats from being elected. You just misspoke.
No, I said to keep Democrats elected. Oh, maybe okay. Anyway,
you did. You said to keep them from being elected,
or they help expand the base. Look, I don't think they're going to need to help Cheney. I don't think Cheney needs help. Kissinger probably needs help. They like his family's treating him the same way Paul Gosar's family treats him, and Kissinger's the one on the outs, and Paul Gosar's insane.
Sure.
Look, I don't know how much of a pull. It would be interesting to see, because remember, one of Biden's big things was, I love everyone comes. They had Kasich. They gave Kasich a big speaking point. They had all these we have all these Republicans to help us, and it wasn't really clear how much of an impact that makes. That's when let's see the impact, and then we can see if you did this. Also, can we get some of these other these other Republicans who left the party or got run out? Where the Jeff Flakes, who's the other short one that retired around the same time as Flake, the other senator, Bob something. I don't remember who he is. Can
Can we get them, or maybe Cheney, or somebody like somebody with some gumption, somebody like with some actual power who was recently in this, to see like somebody with some sway. Like the fact that they threw a Cheney out for a woman who is significantly less Republican but just more Trump, I don't know how much of an impact. Like, this is a cool story, and obviously it's something that the media is going to latch onto, because they're always looking for the anti-Trump Republicans. Where are they? When will the Republican Party take back? This is the Republican Party. It has the support of the base. The people like the Liz Cheneys, who is still essentially a Republican. She's only right on one issue. The people like Bill Weld and the people on the outside. They're the outside. Like the Mitt Romneys, they're not they aren't part of the base anymore. They're scared of the base. Like, yeah. I just want to show me you can do this, and not because, and like when I want you to do this it's not because they're moving their policy. This is the important thing. If a left-leaning policy is moved to the right to get right-leaning voters, they're not voting for a Democrat. They're voting for a Republican light.
Yep.
The question is, are they going to get these people on the Republican platform with just somebody who's not with Trump next to their name, or are they going to get them to vote for a Democrat? So going to the right to get more Republicans is going to lose you support on the left. The question 100%. Is, can you pull support from the right to the left?
That's a great point. We actually had a listener tuning in saying similar things. So rely on cons to get cons to vote for Dems. Reminds me of the last time when investigated Trump. Some people will never learn cons are cons. And then he also stated, to your point, where's Paul Ryan? Get Paul Ryan in here. He has some pull as well. But I think
because Kasich's whole point was don't go further left. That was his argument. Don't go further left. Like, go to the middle, go to the right, get the right. Like, look, there's a reason. Like, when we talk about this, when we talk about 2020, and they go, Medicare for all and defund the police killed us. It's like, that's not true. The candidates who ran on those things overwhelmingly won. The ones who didn't win are the more moderate candidates who were basically running as Republican light. Like, that's where the data shows. So
it depends. Like, I'm gonna push back on that just a little bit, and this is because I'm from the Midwest, and I like to think that I understand Midwestern politics a little bit because of that. And when politics got nationalized, starting around 2012 or so, they were able to successfully convince people that even moderates weren't moderate because of those issues. And it made Democrats lose support among more conservative, socially conservative, maybe economically liberal people in places like Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, former Rust Belt areas. And so I think there's nothing we can do about it, but I wouldn't say that it's the data shows that that's what happened, because you have to look at the areas where people are running and the political breakdown of those areas to know if that's actually true. And I don't think it is. With a few outliers here and there for community and direct community involvement. For example, the Buffalo, New York, the mayor that recently won as a socialist, hugely involved in.
Wild. I love that story.
Like, she was hugely influential in her community, and she was able to take on the establishment because of how integrated she was with the community. I think,
and it also depends on the area that you're running in. Like, most recently, like heavily progressive candidates, just like semi-national candidates, just got shellacked. Ed Uger got destroyed. Yep. Nina Turner lost. They also ran, like, the ADL ran some like really dishonest ads against her.
So bad. Yeah.
But her telling that voting for Biden is like eating shit.
Yeah, that didn't help.
There's context to this, obviously.
Yeah. All right. I think we covered this pretty well. If you, our audience out there, have any ideas about what you want us to cover on the News Roundup, here's how to let us know. Join the Discord. Can't say that enough. You can find the links above this way or down below, pinned to the Facebook group, what have you. So yes, please join the Discord. That's how we interact with people. Or join the Facebook group. If you do Facebook, I understand, is overloaded by boomers, but that's where boomers are, and you got to connect with them there. So we have a presence on Facebook/groups/Tribune Commons. So that is where we're at. We might have a Reddit at some point, but I haven't had the wherewithal to manage all these social media platforms. But do follow us there. And also, if you do Twitter, we're also on Twitter, so you can hit me up at Twitter at Crowdsourced Poll, because there wasn't enough space for Twitter, and you can follow that for memes and whatever else I feel like putting out there daily, pretty much, because I am the no life, terminally online person that is the exception that proves the rule. So anyways, moving on. We need to talk about the economy. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the supply chain crunch that we are experiencing. I'll open up with that. We'll do this, then cover news of the weird, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this up. So the ongoing issues facing supply shortages of various goods is being exacerbated by shipping delays as unloading cargo at American ports continues to be weeks behind. The ongoing issue, first reported by our program back in March, shows no signs of abating as suppliers continue to ship goods to the USA as their factories return to normal production values, while logistics companies are still experiencing labor shortages among truck drivers and dock workers. In that, Biden has since made deals with big box chains like Target and Walmart in order to provide logistics support in freeing up space at these ports, particularly in California, in order to get the goods to American consumers and prevent a spike in prices coming around Christmas time. I want to know your guys' thoughts about this. But I'll go ahead and give my thought about it first here. I think that this is a good thing, but I do want to know what promises were made by Biden to these companies, or whether or not it could just simply be them working in their own self-interest. There hasn't been much reporting about what was talked about, but these companies have agreed to provide logistics services. Walmart, FedEx, and UPS will move to 24-hour working days, 7 days a week, in order to address the global supply chain bottleneck. As announced yesterday.
Okay, that means a lot of jobs.
That means a lot of jobs. That means
Amazon did the same, by the way. Amazon's done the same.
Oh, Amazon. Did Amazon part of this deal, or is it just what they've gone to themselves?
I mean, their ships are the ones being held by and large. So they went on a hiring blitz. So
gotcha.
Yeah, they're in it too.
Good deal. Now, one of the things that I also find interesting is the lack of truck drivers. This is a thing that has been going on for the better part of a decade. We have a lot of people that are not getting their CDL licenses because who wants to sit in a truck cab for 18-hour days, driving on the roads when it's dangerous and that sort of thing, with the amount of pay and the amount of debt that these things usually go into.
You can't do it, and also it's extremely difficult to pass that license.
So I thought they have don't they make like 30 an hour right now?
So there's various complicated issues with this. Some trucking companies are acting like they are independent contractors, where a person has to have their own rig or lease it from that company. And so when you have this. And when you have these kind of contracts with that, they're basically putting all their money into their rig because they have to maintain their own maintenance and the lease payments that they're, while making the $30-$40 an hour, they're probably taking home, 20 less, 20 to $10 to $20 an hour, based on how much
my cousin was one, so yeah, I can tell you they take home $10.
Yeah. So look, here's
and they
the
have
thing
quotas. So
my response to this is, basically, as long as if they have the shortage, then by that definition, labor will have the power to strike and demand better
better pay. Just on the face of it, like the 6 billion other strikes that are simultaneously happening currently. John
Kellogg's.
Deere yesterday, Kellogg's. I think there's like 2 or 3. The Hollywood strike is probably in the next couple weeks.
Yes, that one. Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because Wheel of Time just released a new trailer, and I want that to come out as scheduled.
Wheel of Time. They made the film.
No,
They're
they make
making
it
into
an
a
Amazon
series
TV
for
show.
Netflix.
It looks so good.
It looks
I'm
good.
so excited.
I'll watch it.
The trailer today was just showing Shadow Spawn. It's
My D&D game incorporated Wheel of Time. That's exciting.
I did too.
Oh! System Shock is also going to be a Netflix series.
Nice.
I know the executive producer.
Good deal.
But anyway, my point is like, it's if you're gonna introduce these hours, as long as you compensate the labor, for their labor, you shouldn't have a problem. You should be able to hire the people that you need to do this. And look, this idea that this is solely on Biden, that Joe Biden now, because now the new talking point is Christmas is ruined because you can't get your presents.
And it's because of Joe Biden putting up the money.
Yeah, literally. This was the last thing I covered on my show. Jim Jordan tweeted, under President Trump, Christmas presents were never late. Which everyone
Jesus!
responded
Oh my God! Oh,
which everyone responded to the NPR articles because if you remember, at the end of 2020, Louis DeJoy was the Postmaster General,
Yep.
and all Louis DeJoy does is slow down the mail. And they were warning them in October, you got to worry about this. So,
Yep.
because he wanted to interfere with mail-in ballots.
right, and they're still doing it now. Although, to be fair, they are attempting to do postal banking. That's the one good thing Louis DeJoy has done. But look,
That's surprising.
yeah, in like 4 places. They're somewhere in the Bronx, and then Virginia, I think, and then I don't remember the other 2. As long as you compensate the workers, I'm fine with this. There's nothing wrong with this. Ultimately, one of the beautiful things about this pandemic is we learn where our faults are in all of these supply chains, and we can start building in redundancies. And maybe we have to like break this idea that all of this is profit. We're going to have to build redundancies into our system in order to, maybe get a little less profit, make sure things don't catastrophically cascade in the same way that they did before.
Facts, man. Facts.
I mean, the other beauty of this is, like, when have we had when has labor in this country had this much power?
Fuck, yes.
Like,
It's true.
Except they don't.
Right now, there's a
think
lot
they
of
have
push because of how much there is quote unquote a labor shortage right now. They're pulling in better money.
and there's only the strikes are being effective,
the Dairy Queen
especially if
down
you
my
do it in
road.
certain areas.
Yeah, to talk about that, there's a Dairy Queen that I don't live too far from that their manager has raised their minimum wage to $15 an hour for that Dairy Queen.
Okay,
And
Amazon
it's-
pays $15.50.
right, but I'm saying like
Yeah, and then
but they
they're
also have a terrible working conditions. So I'd rather work at the Dairy Queen.
It is absolute sweatshop slave labor conditions.
If you compare Amazon's work to unionized shop workers in the same position, especially in Bessemer, they make $19 an hour. So they have the ability to assuming Amazon doesn't do whatever illegal shit they did in Bessemer, in theory, they would have the ability to unionize and protest because, hey, look, we're doing this same work, if not worse. They're getting paid way more than us. So they have the ability. Like, the other thing is, every time these stories come up, you see that labor has the power because we ended the enhanced unemployment on Labor Day. Every time, and this is something I advocate everyone in the audience do. Every time you see somebody complain about every time you see somebody complain about unemployment, ask them directly, why didn't cutting the benefits help all those lazy Americans go back to work?
Oh, fuck you.
Like yeah, exactly. That's not a real. I'm
That one's not gonna fly. Change that one. Put some wings on that thing and stick a beak on it and see if it'll go next time around.
But just bring up that point. It's worth it. Maybe somebody changes their mind on it. I understand that most people logically understand that
What do you do
unemployment
for a living?
What do I do for a living?
Universal discourse.
Oh.
I think he was saying to bring that up to the people that think they're lazy and ask them
Yeah,
why.
I wasn't. I'm not.
Yeah,
advocating-
okay.
Yeah, I'm not advocating for that.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
I can-
Definitely. I'm like, I ain't even apologizing for that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know that that's the issue. So it's call it the hypocrisy for that. That's what I'm saying, because it's a point of contention. They just needlessly hurt people.
True. So normally when you have a boom like this, used to be back in the old days, people would be like, "Ooh, let's go to where the work is," right? You're not going to have that. Local people who have been shut inside, facing the moratoriums, etc., they're going to be the very first ones to step up, and they will not let go of those jobs. So you're not going to see this happen the way traditionally it does. So it looks like there's not really too much of a positive. I mean, they're starting at such a deficit. You know, generally, when you get all of a sudden millions of jobs open up, and they're doing mass hirings, and they sort of drop their standards a little. You know,
Right,
it's like
teenagers
boom
now.
times, right? No, that's not what's happening here. This is more like panic room work. The work that they're needing also, the attrition in that workforce has been terminal for over a decade. So you got so many complications with this. If they're going to run 24/7, how are they going to afford to run 24/7? If they're doing their part to help the backlog, they're running directly up against competition with monsters like Amazon. And Amazon is so malicious that all of that effort, you know, they could end up being, you know what I mean? It could end up hurting them in their long game. There's so many layers of BS to this. It's unreal. It's unreal. So, I mean, you have to have, for these jobs, you have to have the kind of workforce that does warehousing, you know what I mean? That's their thing. That's what they do. Shipping, delivering, packaging, what you call warehousing.
Yeah.
Supply and demand. You'd have to hire virtually the entirety of the last generation of Air Force personnel to knock this out. Because we all are trained in that. Everybody except pilots. So, I mean, that's the number of people it would take. But how are these companies going to do it? And Walmart has such discrimination and bad policies as well. Like Amazon took its cues from Walmart. You know, only it accelerated it to an extreme. This is a hot mess. I don't know what the government is doing. Why is it involving itself? What's exactly it's going to do? Discuss collective efforts? I mean, what are they going to do? Pay us and we'll hire more people? What's going to happen here? And what does the Department of Labor have to say about this? That's what I really want to know.
That's why I started with wanting to know more about this particular deal. But I do think that that Fresh Face's new idea has has a point when he says that labor right now does have a bit of advantage than what we've seen, at least in the last 10 years. And I think people are actually leveraging that. It's not because of any Biden bucks. It's not because of anything like that. It's because of coming off of off of COVID recession with this much pent up demand. People are in need of workers, and anytime people need workers,
hold on 1 second.
They are more likely to pay more or hire people that they wouldn't necessarily hire. On top of that, about a third of the people that died were probably in the labor force, so that's a less labor force, and we are still seeing people not re-entering the labor force because they have to still take care of the kids. All these kind of issues are coming together to make this kind of weird storm around this. But we are pressed for time, so we're going to do... For anybody that's just joining us now, we'd like to wrap up, or if you're this first time you joined us, rather, we like to wrap up with a little segment of the weird. And this week's story is about a woman that was sentenced to 4 days in jail for refusing to leave the presence of a bear at Yellowstone Park. We're going to go ahead and watch the video here on it, and this is what happened, and then talk about it a little bit.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I got that on video. Me too.
Now, that's a very short video. clearly. It's the reason that this is against the law is because these are wildlife refuge, and people are supposed to leave bears alone, leave animals alone, and that sort of thing. This is actually against the law to, feed the animals and things like that. It is also for public safety. So I want to know what you guys think about this particular case. Did the woman get punished too harshly? Or is this something that we need to do to keep animals and people safe?
If it's the law that she should not approach within X and she broke it, that's it. It's also stupid.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
She's gotten it one foot closer. Oh, worse.
Yeah.
I don't know how she got that close anyway. Like I guess they would have to have better signs about like stuff like this. The problem is there's like a lot of people who are very dumb. I think it is Yellowstone that has the quote, like the part of their garbage issues is the crossover between the dumbest tourists and the smartest bear is an overlap. So they have a hard time designing garbages that the bears can't get into, that people can't figure out. But look, this is like 4 days is fine. This is basically how Harambe died, is people doing dumb stuff like this. So, it is what it is.
To put a little more context, Bob Murray, the acting U.S. attorney for the District of Wyoming, said on Thursday that Samantha During, 25, pled guilty to willfully remaining and approaching and photographing wildlife within 100 yards. His office says that During did not move away from the bears as they approached, even as other park visitors did, and that she took pictures as the bears charged her. So, one complete dumbass. There's a story that my wife and I share every time we hear anything about bears, because a woman in Russia was fishing with her father and they both got mauled randomly. And what happened was the woman got taken down and was on the phone telling her mom loved her, as the mother bear got the cubs to come and eat her body. And then the bear found the father trying to find her and mauled him and killed him too. So don't fuck with bears is what I'm saying. Bears will kill you. They will maul you. You will be dead.
It sounds like this woman was
like
trying
this.
to win a Darwin Award.
I was going to say Darwin Award. She won the Darwin Award. 4 days for her to think about not being a dumbass. Says maybe it isn't me. She knew the law. She broke it. I think that they're like, look, lady, we're sorry. We're not kidding. No more of these
and other people moved away.
Yeah.
Like she wasn't like, if she was alone, it would be different. But if like other people were like, hey, maybe we should get out of here. She's like, no, I'm good. Like,
No, it's Zoom.
Do it for the gram. Anyways.
Maybe she thought she was Leonardo DiCaprio or something.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us this Thursday evening. It has been a pleasure, and we are sad to say we are out of time for this. If you liked what you heard, and we knew you did because you're still with us right now, go ahead and ring the bell, hit the follow button. It really does help us out trying to get to 200, 300 followers or so in the next, before the end of the year. Hit that follow button. We would greatly appreciate it. If you do Discord, join the Discord. That's how we get to know people. We do contests. We gave people freaking pinata. Hold on, I'll show. I got one present this time. We gave out awards. So I got this for graduating a camp, but we gave out pinatagrams, the thing that we gave out these as a prize for coming up with the best memes or sharing the best memes in our community. Two lovely people, and they've greatly appreciated it. So go ahead and do that. Join the Facebook group if you do Facebook. It's at Facebook.com/group/Tribune Commons, or follow us on Facebook, Twitter at Crowdsource Politics, Twitter at Crowdsourced Poll. And as always,
Sexosar, thank you for becoming a sorcerer.
Oh, yes, greatly appreciate that. Look at that. See, you're going to follow us. We're going to appreciate you. Thank you, Fexosar, again, for joining us. We will be here every Thursday going forward and for all of time unless something happens. So greatly appreciate it. But
we'll see each other again if we're alive and well.
For sure. Universal
Also, Phases, sorry we mistook your misspoke your statement. I take the FU back. I take it back. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, Universal Discourse, go ahead, shout yourself out, Fresh Faces, and then we'll cover it today.
Universal Discourse. So all things indigenous and quantum, counter extremism. I'm a veteran musician. I actually try to train people in civil discourse, which means the ability to listen to somebody saying even the worst things. And dealing with my own housing crisis at the time. So we're going to be doing a lot of special streams coming up. We're going to be streaming the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally trial, and hopefully doing something called the Surreal World, which is what happens when people end up homeless and they stream on Twitch and they live in the same house together. So you can follow me. I'm Universal Discourse on Twitch and everywhere else. And if you want to participate in things like that, then hit me up in my Discord. And stay tuned for the next Cypher State, and hope to see you all next week on the News Roundup.
Greatly appreciate you, Universal Discourse. Always a pleasure. Fresh Faces, go ahead and shout yourself out.
First, Cypher, I tagged you on the new trailer for the Wheel of Time stuff on Twitter.
Awesome.
I'm Fresh Faces New Ideas. You can find me on twitch.tv/Fresh Faces New Ideas. You can find me on Twitter at Faces Ideas. Look, I stream basically every day. I don't stream on the weekend. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, I stream 1 p.m. Thursdays, I stream at 5 p.m. EST. I will talk to anybody. All my links are in my Twitch or on my Twitter. But I post all this stuff there. I generally cover what's going on in the news at the time. I'll talk to people on the Discord. I'll talk to people in chat. I like to have conversations. I don't really throw anybody out of the community. But yeah, Fresh Faces, twitch.tv/Fresh Faces New Ideas. And I hope to see more of you. I couldn't stream today because I was having a lot of technical issues. So I'm just here.
And he's funny. Holy crap.
Again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as we say at Crowdsource Politics, keep your head up through the political storm.
Bye.